remarkable. Something that we
ourselves occasionally found difficult to credit even as we watched it unfold. Admiral William Crowe, America's top military officer, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, on a red carpet tour of highly sensitive Soviet military installations. A close-up look at weapon systems previously seen by Americans only in high-altitude satellite photos. The Admiral was there at the invitation of the top Soviet commander, who visited him in the United States last year. And Chairman Crowe invited us to come along. And what does an American admiral do on the way to Moscow? Among other things, this admiral learned some basic Russian phrases, like how to respond to the salute of a Soviet oligarch.
I'll give you. Sold out. Somehow I'm screwing it up. No, you're doing great. You're up. This is beyond my wildest expectations. Even when I thought it might come, I didn't think it would come during my case. In fact, in many senses, this is the most important official visit I have made in my military career.
How come?
Because I think we're talking big stuff now. Improving the relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union in the wake of 40 years of Cold War. That's world class.
The Admiral's official host for the trip, General Mikhail Moiseyev, head of the Soviet Armed Forces, part of a new generation of Soviet military leaders too young to have fought in World War II. We flew in, General Moiseyev, with Admiral Crowe this morning. And on the way in, he told us that he felt that this may be the most important trip he has taken in his 47-year military career.
We know of Admiral Crowe's attitude. Нам есть что сказать друг другу. We do have something to say to each other.
The agenda is open, I understand.
Повестка будем считать открытой.
That is correct. Начальник почетного караула, подполковник Калинин.
First stop on the tour of Soviet military sites, the Soviet Missile Forces Academy near Moscow, where officers learn how to fire strategic missiles like the SS-19, all 100 tons of it.
Now, the missile is loaded inside the container. Container and missile at the same time?
So obviously fascinated, the Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force, General Monroe Hatch, tries to sound matter-of-fact.
Will we see the launch control center?
Управление пуском можно показать нам? Система управления. Мы вам все покажем. We'll show everything to you now.
Next to Kubinka Air Force Base near Moscow, where the Americans got a close-up look at and a chance to ask questions about some of the aircraft they trained to fight against. Admiral Crowe is still trying to get his Russian phrases straight.
How do you say thank you again?
Let's see. Damn, can't remember. Gosh almighty, look at the size of that.
The highlight, a visit to the cockpit of a Soviet Blackjack fighter bomber, similar to the U.S.'s V-1. We listened over a wireless microphone the Soviets knew the Admiral was wearing as he and Air Force General Monroe Hatch asked questions.
What's the top speed?
Какая максимальная скорость полета? 2M. 2M.
2M. And do you practice refueling with this?
За заправку в воздухе практикуете на этом самолете?
Yes.
No.
What do you think, Monroe?
It's impressive. How many cruise missiles does it carry?
12 крылатых ракет. 12 Falcons.
12.
But lately, the Soviets claim to have undergone a major change in their military strategy, from emphasizing offense to defense. And they asked how could their Blackjack bomber be an offensive threat with a range of only 2,200 kilometers, barely over 1,300 miles.
What kind of targets, then, are we going to use this plane? Within the range of 2,200 kilometers.
I have a map.
Then General Moiseyev made a remarkable statement.
We have never regarded the United States as the enemy of the Soviet Union. And we do not regard any possible scenario which would involve unleashing a conventional warfare or nuclear warfare, the most so against the United States.
You and I are literally members of a transitional generation, tasked at this moment to re-examine the way our two societies have thought and dealt with each other for many years.
At the Voroshilov Military Academy in Moscow, the cream of the Soviet officer corps listens as Admiral Krau explains why the U.S. is skeptical about the sincerity of Soviet defense cutbacks.
Even after the anticipated reductions, you will still possess the world's largest active military establishment. Speaking candidly, it is rather difficult for Americans and those in many other countries to see how such a massive array of power is mandated by the legitimate needs of defense. Make no mistake, your American counterparts welcome the announced shifts in Soviet military thinking and structure. We will watch closely as these changes unfold, and we genuinely want the momentum to continue.
The reaction was hardly an ovation. Many annoyed that the chairman failed to credit what, to their view, are in fact major cutbacks. And that reaction disturbed Admiral Krau, as he told us later in his quarters.
I occasionally get uneasy, not because I see the gap in our thinking, and I don't know how to bridge it. It's frustrating. What do you mean? There's a big gap between the Soviet and American military's views on this subject.
On the subject of?
Who is stronger, how much money is being spent, whether they're doing what they say they're doing.
And why the
I
cutback?
suspect there is no one reason in itself, but clearly it's part of perestroika, it's part of glasnost, it's part of the economic pressures on them. How fundamental that'll be, I think, at least from my standpoint, it's too early to say.
It's certainly fundamental, according to General Moiseyev. Soviet military cutbacks, he says, will come to almost 20%. You know, of course, General Moiseyev, that there is some skepticism in the United States. They say that you finally gave us the budget figures, but they're only half your military budget.
Но знаете, вообще в жизни можно все ставить под сомнение.
Of course, in life, you know, you can suspect anything.
Если только задастся целью.
As long as you have the goal to be suspicious. These figures are true figures. These are well-based figures, figures that were quoted by the General Secretary.
И американского народа не может быть.
With glasnost now apparently sweeping the Soviet military, could there possibly be joint military exercises between the U.S. and the Soviets? Joint maneuvers?
Совместные учения и маневры можно сделать.
Я это не исключаю.
I do not exclude that possibility.
Мы были во Второй мировой войне, были союзниками.
We were allies in the Second World War.
Победили фашизм.
We conquered fascism together.
Наши солдаты сражались с американскими солдатами.
Our soldiers fought side by side with U.S. soldiers.
Исторические
Allies again?
Снова союзники.
А вы это исключаете?
Do you exclude that possibility?
I'm asking questions.
Я просто задаю вопрос.
Нет, а я хочу.
А почему бы и нет?
Да, а я хочу просто тоже спросить. А вы это исключаете?
And I want to ask you a question in return. Can you exclude that possibility of being allies?
Absolutely not, sir.
Абсолютно ни в какой мере не могу исключить это.
Тут надо просто себе задать вопрос. Против кого союзники?
The one question you have to ask yourself is, against whom are we going to be allies?
China?
Против Китая?
Я не рассматриваю эту великую державу.
I do not look upon this
Никогда.
great power ever in that light.
So who's the enemy?
Поэтому кто же будет врагом?
If you're not our enemy, we're not your enemy, who's the
Если
enemy?
вы не наши
Врагов
враги,
не должно
если вы
быть.
не ваши враги, кто же враг?
Врагов не должно
There ought
быть.
to
Мы
be
должны
no
жить дружно.
enemies. We should live in peace and in harmony.
Thank you.
You're a good interviewer.
Вы очень хороший интервью даете.
Нет, но я учусь пока у вас.
From Moscow to 2 degrees north of the Arctic Circle, near one of the Soviets' major secret naval bases at Murmansk. That is the Kirov, a Soviet nuclear-powered missile cruiser. After first visiting a nuclear submarine, and only one other member of his party was allowed there, the chairman comes aboard the Kirov. No American officer has visited such a sophisticated Soviet ship before.
Честь вашего прибытия построен. Начальник караула, капитан-лейтенант Свигун.
Admiral Crow, you looked as though your heart was going to burst when you came aboard the Kirov. And as you came aboard, they were playing the Star Spangled Banner.
Very touching moment for me. I never thought I'd see that. I didn't expect it, and I was moved.
Then the Soviets gave the Admiral a look at a naval exercise, a defensive exercise, of course, hunting down attacking enemy submarines. Naval strength is a bitter point of contention between the United States and the Soviets. While the U.S. fears the Soviet strength on land, the Soviets, though they have greatly built up their own fleet, say they fear the U.S. preeminence at sea. The irony here is that as a top-level U.S. delegation aboard the Kirov is watching all this, the Kirov itself is being shadowed by a NATO ship.
She's on patrol. Always on patrol, always shadowing the Soviet fleet.
Always shadowing this particular ship.
The Soviets' Northern Fleet also displayed its special entertainment unit.
Many thanks for your hospitality. And best of everything to you. You have a proud and fine command.
Next, it was the turn of the Soviet Army to perform for the Admiral, near Minsk. A full-scale exercise with live ammunition, with the scenario, of course, entirely defensive. The Soviet side first pulling back before an invading force. But in the end, the Soviets rout the invaders, no doubt about it. It was in this same region that invading armies from Napoleon's to Hitler's have stormed into the Russian heartland, wreaking incredible slaughter on the Russian people, which is just the point the Soviets wanted to get across at war memorials throughout the country, like this one in Leningrad, dedicated to the 1 million Soviet citizens killed in that city alone during World War II.
We're devoid of the elementary conditions for survival.
Altogether, some 20 million Soviets were killed in World War II, more than 40 times the number of Americans who were lost. But the most moving moment of his trip for the Admiral came in Volgograd, the city once known as Stalingrad, when he talked with some older citizens who had lived through the war. Promise, there will be no more wars, she said.
I promise you. We've got a great deal to learn about the Soviet depth of feeling on war. The vast majority of our people haven't had the opportunity to visit here. It would be a good thing if they did.
That tragic past, says Crow, is still very much present.
The Soviet citizen would think that a large military is necessary on the basis of his experience and the basis of his history. And, of course, Russian history is full of invasions, full of wars, over centuries and centuries. Nothing like our history.
By the time the group had reached Samarkand, deep in Soviet Central Asia, 8 days into the trip, the awkwardness there had been at the beginning of the visit had simply melted away. That's Air Force Vice Chief Hatch, you remember him. And that's Army Vice Chief Robert Breskowski. And this man is Soviet Marshal Sergei Akbameov, a key advisor to President Gorbachev. This is General Joe Wendt, Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Marine Corps. Last stop of the trip, the Kremlin.
How do you do, Mr. President? We've had a wonderful visit. I've observed firsthand that Soviet citizens are a great deal like Americans.
And I believe the very fact that you have visited the Soviet Union and visited military facilities and units also demonstrate that we are moving from the notion of the enemy to the notion of partners.
Admiral, is there something extraordinary going on between the Soviet Union and the United States right now?
I must be candid with you. I think there is. The contacts I am having and the exchanges I'm having lead me to believe that we are on the brink possibly of a really fundamental shift.
But does that mean joint maneuvers? Does it mean we're going to wind up allied?
Clearly, we are stepping out of the mold that has captured us, fenced us in now for quite some time. We are in a transition period, and it is too early for me to paint clearly where we're going, but we're going.
Admiral Crowe retires as chairman of the Joint Chiefs at the end of this month.